Even though it looks like it's sunny out, I was out Nick's, my buddy Nick, who has a bike shop, talking to him, and when I was out there, and it's about 50 miles from here, 50 miles southwest of here, and the roads are wet. And he said, "Oh, you just barely missed the rain." And I said, "Well," I said, "I missed it." And I said, he goes, "Oh, no, you didn't." He said, "You better check your weather radar." And my weather radar was, I looked at the sky, and the sky looked like this. Then I checked the weather radar, and it's like 87% chance of rain in 45 minutes. And I'm like, even though I've got the no rain suit for local rides, I'm also like, as much as I wanted to go get wings and a sweet tea at Roxy's, I was like, you know what? I probably better head north toward the inherently dangerous Motovlog headquarters. Now, we will be moving to headquarters in the next 2 months. I went and looked at a place yesterday, and it's smaller than the place I have now, and it don't have a garage, which is an issue. But the house was freshly remodeled, had a beautiful kitchen, good location that's close to my youngest daughter, where she regularly goes for swim practice, and it would give her a base camp. And so I think I'm going to do it and figure out my garage situations. I have options, one of them being that I can buy a shed. I can put a shed out back behind this house. It's got a giant yard, and I can add a garden. I'll be renting a place, but it has the option to buy if I like it. And I thought to myself, I was like, well, that's a pretty good deal. And it was a decent price for buying the place, actually. And I thought to myself, I was like, well, they'd give me an option. It's like, how you live in a thing for 6 months and decide, learn how the house is living. And then when I do it, I can go, hey, I'll buy it. And in that 6 months, I'll just store my bike at a nearby garage that a friend of mine owns. So maybe half a mile away, I could walk to. Be inconvenient. Granted, it'll be inconvenient. But we're going into the winter months, and that inconvenience is my middle name sometimes. But yeah, I was actually out looking at a different house. Oh, don't tell me I'm running see, the sky looks great, looks fine. But it's looked like that for these last couple of weeks, and then I wound up getting home and getting naked in the basement at the dryer. Thanks to the Blink camera, I have a reminder that I really need to start running again. The doctor asked me not to run. He said, I went to the specialist twice. He said, he asked me, he said it took a pretty good beating. The muscles and tendons took a pretty good beating, and they're not going to heal quickly for a man my age. And so he wanted me to keep them unwrapped, but then he's like, I want you to wrap them up, a good part of the day, and just unwrap it in the evening. And it's very painful. It's a painful healing. I'll say that. And there might be micro fractures, which doesn't help, and there's nothing they can do about it. My middle finger is not straightened. It doesn't straighten up like that pinky finger did, which kind of is concerning. But there's like once again, what are you going to do? But he said he don't want me to take a chance of falling on it. So, because he asked me, do you fall when you run? Yeah, actually I did earlier this year. I tripped because the sidewalks where I run is uneven. And I said, well, I'm going to be careful. I'm only going to run short distances, and I'm going to buy one of them weighted vests. So the 3-mile run will be, I'll try to add some weight to it and make it equivalent to like a 6 or 7 mile run. And see how my foot does. Yeah, getting old is not for the meek. And I don't care if they say the meek shall inherit the earth. by then it won't be worth much. Oh, I was going to make a turn. I really need this right lane up here. One of the things about splitting lanes in an area where the lane splitting is not normal, people don't look for you to split lanes. And I think in areas where people split lanes all the time, people keep an eye on that mirror for motorcycles, especially in areas where there's more motorcycles. And we just got out of Sturgis, and this gets me every year. It's one of the sore spots. I was watching the Sturgis. They had a couple live cams, and you got to see all the bikes, and like wow, look at all those bikes, you know. That's cool to be someplace where there's all these bikes. And I'm thinking, where are those bikes the rest of the year? What are those people doing the rest of the year? I get it. It's not convenient to drive to work. It's not easy. Traffic is more dangerous than ever. I get it. And we're going to get out here, slip back in, on up here. Worst I have to do is get cut off and wind up going over to AJ's house. I'll just slip back in here. But I think if there was more people, say 10% more, and 10% is the number I live by, like I always want to get better, like 10% better. Like 10% better at the gym, 10% better at my running, 10% better at my diet, you know, like I don't make these giant jumps, because when you make these giant leaps of promises to yourself, and that are impossible promises, sometimes it's an easy one to fail. Like, well, I knew I was going to fail. I was going to get 100% better than I was yesterday. It's like, yeah, well, you know, maybe let's try sword numbers. 10% to better tomorrow, 10% better next week. But if we had 10% more motorcycles on the road every year, let's just say every year. And this is a goal for all you motorcycle manufacturers who are in the market to sell motorcycles. What if there was 10% more motorcycles on the road? How would the traffic treat other riders? Yeah, I didn't bring my rain suit because I'm not going on long trips. At least till the weather gets colder, where it's miserable to be cold and ride it. I mean, it's uncomfortable to be wet and ride. I'll give it that, but as long as it's not cold, I mean, like I'm just like, it's just discomfort, and I can deal with discomfort. Everybody can deal with discomfort, and that's the thing. Is if you want to ride every day, you want to become a regular day, every year, round the year rider. That's one of the things you got to get used to. Is you're going to wind up in uncomfortable situations. Being wet and riding, yeah, it's not comfortable. It's really not comfortable when you're wearing t-shirts. But when you're wearing, you know, if I was wearing a hoodie or gloves, or, you know, a jacket and gloves, and it's caught in the rain with a full face helmet, it's not bad. It's just wet. And nobody likes to be in wet clothes. It's uncomfortable. So just get used to being uncomfortable. And that's how you turn yourself into a year-round rider. I was talking to one of the fit specialists. I hate that word. Fit specialist at Harley Davidson, and he rides a Dynaglide. He was asking me about my Simpson helmet, and he's got a Harley modular helmet, but he's loud. And I said, well, you got to wear earplugs. But I told him, I said, my next helmet's going to be carbon fiber, and carbon fiber helmets are not known to be quiet. But I would rather deal with the noise by wearing earplugs and not have the weight. Because you don't think something's heavy until you put a camera on the front of it and go for a couple 100 miles. And especially when you wear glasses and you can feel the helmet pushing down on your glasses. You're like, oh, yeah. It's no big deal. Honestly, one of the things next year that one of the resolutions I'd made to myself was like, I'm going to buy a set of those glasses that are made for motorcycle riders. I wish there was an eye store that carried those so I could try them on, because I don't know how many people out there wear glasses, but when you wear glasses, the comfort of wearing glasses is very important, especially inside a motorcycle helmet. The glasses I got last year, which were Nike frames, because my company paid for them, turned out to be very uncomfortable inside my helmet. Even though I tried them on in the store, you know, hours in, you're like, this wasn't a smart move. And I'm wearing an old set of prescription glasses that are old Ray-Bans, and they're more comfortable than the others, but they're still not perfect either. And it's like, if I could get 10% better, you know. Yeah, but it's one of them things. It's like you just like, you know, pour that concrete. Huh? You don't like the way that sidewalk was? Tear it, chisel it back up, tear up the concrete, redo it. That's the thing. Is be willing to say that didn't work. I'm going to redo it. Pete, who used to build lots of bikes, Pete still builds bikes. I'll give Pete that. Pete is constantly changing stuff on his motorcycles to suit him. He's like, he told me once when he was building his chopper, and I was building the chopper, and he's like, "Here, let me give you a piece of advice." I'm like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Don't paint anything the first year. Put the thing together. Don't paint everything. You know, it's not going to rust out. If it gets a little rust on, you can always sand it later." He says, "Because you want to change stuff the first year." He said, "You're not going to be happy with none of this, and you're going to be cutting in. You know, if you do fresh paint stuff, you're going to be unhappy." And he goes, "And even on your tanks and fenders, you know, just moving around, getting used to stuff." And he said, "You're going to wind up scratching it up. You're going to hate it. You're going to push the bike over in the gravel and mad because it didn't start 500 miles from home." And he's got a good point. He's a very good point. And so you can't be afraid to tear into something. And if you make it to where it's easy to tear into it, it's not hurting nobody's feelings to tear into it. And that's the great thing about like these Amazon pegs, these cheap Amazon pegs. I can get them where I want them, and then I can go, "Mike, this is where I'm going to put a set of permanent pegs. I want you to weld me some permanent pegs on there, and with some, you know, some kind of bear trap grip on it, so that I can put my foot up here." I got a couple ideals. I'm like mocking some stuff up, and I just don't want to do nothing until I got it the right ideal. But even then, I'm like, "Yeah, that didn't work, Mike. Let's cut it off." And Mike will completely understand. My buddy Mike Cook. He's like Pete in that regard. It didn't work. Let's don't start from scratch. It's just the fabricator's notebook, you know, or is that how they say it? The devil drives a Buick, sticks a pitchfork in the back, and pulls out true love, true love, true love. But I've made it this far, and so I feel pretty good. I'm about 3 miles from the house. When it rains, this bridge floods. It becomes like hydroplaning hell. And I got caught in it a couple weeks ago in hydroplaning hell, and it was no fun because traffic was moving along pretty good before it coming down hard, and I was like this is the lane I need to be in to get off my exit up here. And people were moving along pretty good, and I could feel the bike being squirrely, and I was like, woo! And that's yet another reason to be a year-round rider, is that you get practiced at riding in those situations which are dangerous, inherently dangerous. Riding a motorcycle in water where you can hydroplane is inherently dangerous, and that's why you got to practice. You got to expose yourself to it, and not just expose yourself to it. You got to get in the right mindset. You have to be calm. You really have to get into a meditative mindset, and it's like you focus on everything around you. You focus on the conditions of the bike. You listen to the conditions of your steering, your brakes, the whole 9 yards. It really is like, I've never took martial arts, but I can imagine that's what it's like. That there's a whole mindset that goes behind it. It's not just kicking and screaming and, you know, whatever, grasshopper. Yeah, I'm probably dating myself with that comment. But Kroger's had brisket on sale yesterday, and I bought a cooked brisket. All I gotta do is heat up, and I got some tomato and mozzarella sauce. So if I can get home dry, I'm gonna get home and have a good meal and pack my lunch for work tomorrow. I gotta work the next 2 days, and I'm gonna shoot a video tonight. I got some ideals and talk about the new CEO, and you'll probably see it before you see this. I just happened to just happened to be on the bike and had my camera today. I had to run to the dealership for there were 2 recalls on the ST. One of them was a brake line, and it actually took me a couple hours and get the recall done. And I rode up and seen Nick. But this is yet another spot. I'm glad the rain. This is not a good spot in the rain either. Because see how you're getting dumped into the fast lane? Usually there's a lot of traffic here, and you got to fight to get over 3 lanes in 1 mile. Yeah, I don't even know what time it is. It's Tuesday afternoon, ain't it? I have no idea what time it is. Well, obviously it's not rush hour. This would be a madhouse crazy. But on that note, let's get 10% better. We'll get 10% better today, and we'll get 10% better tomorrow or next week, or blah 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 blah. Peace out, folks.